In the rugged hills of Galilee, where the skies stretch endlessly and the winds carry whispers of destiny, a man named James the Greater took his first steps toward a path few dared to walk. Known as the Skywalker, he was a fearless traveler of both land and spirit. His journey marked by courage, fiery zeal, and unwavering faith. From the bustling shores where he cast his nets alongside his brother John, to the divine moments that would shake the foundations of the world, James' story is one of relentless pursuit. A warrior of faith, a messenger of light, his footsteps echoed with the promise of transformation and the call to a heavenly mission. Prepare to embark on an epic saga of adventure, sacrifice, and divine purpose. This is the story of James the Greater, the Skywalker. His journey begins now. Chapter 1. The Call of the Sea. The early morning light spilled over the tranquil waters of the Sea of Galilee, painting the sky with hues of amber and rose. The gentle lap of waves against the wooden hulls of fishing boats was the soundtrack of a simple life. Yet beneath this serene surface, a storm of destiny was quietly gathering. In the small village by the shore, James, son of Zebedee, was already hard at work, his hands skilled and sure as he prepared the nets alongside his brother John. Life here was shaped by the rhythm of the sea. The fishermen rose before dawn, their faces weathered by sun and salt, their bodies hardened by years of labor. Yet among them, James stood apart, not just for his strength, but for a spark in his eyes that betrayed an unspoken longing. His spirit was restless, his heart seeking something beyond the catch of fish and the cycles of the seasons. James had grown up in this tight-knit community, where every face was familiar and every day was a repetition of the last. But he was not content with familiarity. Tales of wandering prophets and miracles whispered in the marketplace stirred his imagination. And above all, the presence of a new teacher named Jesus had begun to cast a shadow that would change everything. One fateful morning, as the fishermen cast their nets into the sparkling waters, a figure appeared on the shore, a man whose gaze carried the weight of heaven itself. Jesus of Nazareth, whose reputation as a healer and preacher had begun to spread like wildfire. His voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the morning air. "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." For James, those words struck like a thunderclap. The promise was not just of adventure, but of transformation. To follow Jesus meant leaving behind everything he knew, the nets, the boat, his father, and even the certainty of his own path. It was a call to embrace uncertainty, to step into the unknown with nothing but faith and courage. As James looked to his brother John, he saw the same fierce determination reflected there. Together, they dropped their nets, abandoned their livelihood, and took the first step on a journey that would lead them far beyond the shores of Galilee. It was a leap into a world of miracles and challenges, of battles against darkness, both without and within. From that moment forward, James was no longer just a fisherman. He was a Skywalker, one who dared to walk the path between earth and heaven, between the ordinary and the divine. His story would be one of daring feats and deep faith, of storms weathered on the sea and in the soul, a journey toward a destiny that would shake the foundations of the world. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the water, the adventure of James the Greater had truly begun. Chapter 2. Brother of Thunder. James was never alone on his path. By his side stood his brother John, fiery, passionate, and just as determined to follow the man they now called the Messiah. Together, they were known among the disciples as the Sons of Thunder, a name whispered with awe and sometimes a hint of fear. It was a reflection of their fierce loyalty, their bold spirits, and the thunderous force they would bring to the unfolding story of faith. Growing up together on the shores of Galilee, James and John had always shared a bond deeper than mere blood. They understood each other in ways no one else could. Two souls intertwined by fate, raised on the same rugged terrain, hardened by the same relentless sun. But their personalities, while close, were distinct. James was strong and resolute, a natural leader whose courage often pushed him forward into the unknown. John, meanwhile, was the flame, impassioned, contemplative, and, at times, wild with zeal. Their journey with Jesus would test every fiber of their beings. They witnessed miracles that defied explanation. Waters parted, diseases healed, even the dead brought back to life. But alongside these wonders came trials, moments of doubt, fear, and even betrayal. Through it all, the brothers stood firm, their thunderous spirit both a shield and a beacon. When Jesus called them to leave their father Zebedee and their fishing nets behind, James and John did not hesitate. This was not a mere decision. It was a transformation. The sea, their lifelong companion, was replaced by a greater calling, a mission to bring light into darkness, hope to the despairing. Yet being sons of thunder was not just about boldness and action. It was about passion and purpose. James, the elder, was often the first to speak, the first to act, sometimes even the first to confront danger head-on. John, the younger, balanced this with a deep devotion and insight, quietly absorbing the teachings and visions that would later shape the faith they carried. Their thunder was not always welcome. There were times when their fiery temper led to misunderstandings, even among their fellow disciples. But it was precisely this fire that Jesus valued, knowing that such fervor, when tempered by wisdom and love, could ignite the world. In moments of calm, the brothers would retreat from the crowds, finding solace in the quiet hills or the stillness of night. Here, they wrestled with their fears and hopes, wondering what destiny truly awaited them. Each vision, each encounter with the divine, deepened their bond, not just to each other but to the mission that bound them. James and John were more than fishermen turned followers. They were warriors of the Spirit, chosen to carry thunder where silence reigned. Their story was one of brotherhood forged in faith, of courage that would shake the heavens and earth alike. As they journeyed onward, the echoes of their thunder grew louder, calling others to join, to believe, and to transform the world. Chapter 3. Steps Toward Destiny. The path of James was no ordinary journey. From the first moment he heard the voice of Jesus calling him from the shores of Galilee. Every step he took was marked by purpose and an unyielding resolve. The destiny laid before him was both a gift and a burden, a call to walk where few dared, to face dangers untold, and to carry a message that could shake the very foundations of the world. Leaving behind the familiar nets and boats of his father's trade, James stepped into an unknown future. The sea, which had shaped his life with its rhythms and storms, now gave way to the winding roads and dusty trails of a land awakening to a new hope. Each village, each encounter along the way, tested his faith and strengthened his spirit. At Jesus' side, James learned the art of listening, not just to words, but to the silent language of the heart and soul. He watched as the Master healed the sick, comforted the broken, and challenged the proud. Each miracle was a step forward, a signpost on the path to a destiny far greater than fishing or family tradition. Yet, the road was fraught with peril. The growing opposition from religious leaders, the whispers of betrayal, and the looming shadow of the cross all pressed heavily on James's shoulders. His courage was tested in moments of doubt, when the future seemed uncertain and the cost of discipleship weighed heavily. But with every trial, James's resolve deepened. He began to understand that destiny was not simply a matter of fate, but of choice, each step a deliberate act of faith and courage. The journey demanded more than strength. It required humility, patience, and an unwavering heart. Along the way, James witnessed the bonds of brotherhood grow stronger, not just with John, but with the other disciples who would become his comrades in arms. Together, they formed a fellowship bound by shared vision and sacrifice, each one preparing for the day when their faith would be tested like never before. As the sun rose and set over Galilee, James felt the weight of the world pressing closer, but so too did a quiet hope. A hope that through sacrifice and steadfastness, the light of their mission would break through the darkest night. With every footstep, James edged closer to the destiny that awaited him. a destiny not of earthly glory, but of eternal significance. Chapter 4. Flames of Zeal. James, the son of thunder, was no stranger to fire. Not just the fire that warmed the hands on a cold night, but the blazing, consuming fire of zeal that burned deep within his soul. This flame was kindled in the earliest days of his journey with Jesus, a flame that would push him beyond the bounds of fear and hesitation into the realm of fearless devotion. As Jesus traveled from town to town, preaching the kingdom of God, James's heart was ignited by the power of the message. The words of the Messiah were like sparks striking dry wood, setting his spirit ablaze with a fierce and unyielding passion. He was a man transformed, not by mere curiosity, but by a calling that seared through every fiber of his being. The zeal within James was both a strength and a challenge. It propelled him to speak boldly where others whispered, to act decisively when others hesitated. He was the disciple who confronted injustice head-on, who stood firm in the face of danger, and who embodied the very fire of conviction. Yet this fervor was tested again and again. When the crowds turned restless, when the Pharisees plotted, and when doubt crept in the hearts of even the closest followers, James's flame burned brighter. It was a fire that refused to be quenched by fear or failure. In the midst of these trials, James's zeal also became a beacon to others. His courage inspired those around him to stand tall and speak truth in times of darkness. His fierce loyalty to Jesus marked him as a warrior of faith, ready to lay down everything for the cause he believed in. But flames, no matter how bright, can also bring danger. James learned that zeal without wisdom could lead to recklessness. The moments when his passion flared unchecked served as harsh lessons, reminding him that true strength was tempered with patience and discernment. Through it all, James's heart remained aflame with purpose. His journey was far from easy, but every trial stoked the fire within, forging a spirit ready to face the greatest storms yet to come. The path of the Caminante del Cielo was blazing ahead, illuminated by the unwavering zeal of a man chosen to carry a message that would echo through eternity. Chapter 5. Walking with the Master. The days with Jesus were unlike any James had ever known. Each step they took together was a journey not just across dusty roads, but deeper into the very heart of a divine mission. Walking beside the Master meant more than simply following. It meant learning the rhythm of heaven, feeling the weight of destiny on his shoulders, and embracing a purpose that transcended all worldly desires. James, once just a fisherman with calloused hands and a stubborn will, now moved with a sense of profound purpose guided by the one who spoke of love and judgment, mercy and truth. The sun beating down on their backs as they traversed hills and valleys was a constant reminder that this path would not be easy. Yet James welcomed the hardships, knowing they were forging him into something greater. Every day brought new lessons. The parables Jesus shared were mysteries wrapped in stories, seeds planted in the hearts of those who listened. James learned to see beyond the surface, to read the signs hidden in ordinary moments: a sparrow's flight, a mustard seed's growth, a shepherd's care for his sheep. These teachings were not just words, but a map guiding him toward a destiny he had never imagined. Walking with the Master also meant facing the doubts and fears that lurked in the shadows. James saw the skepticism in the eyes of townsfolk, the murmurs of dissent among religious leaders, and the growing tension in the air. Yet in those moments of uncertainty, Jesus' calm presence was an anchor, steadying the storm within. There were moments of breathtaking awe. James witnessed miracles that defied understanding. Water transformed into wine at a wedding feast, the lame walking again, the blind receiving sight. Each miracle was a testament to the power that flowed through Jesus, a power James felt stirring within himself as faith took root deeper than ever before. As days turned to weeks, James found his heart burning with a zeal that was both fierce and humble. He was no longer just a follower. He was becoming a participant in a story that would change the world. He walked through fields where the grain grew golden under the sky, alongside fishermen casting nets under moonlight, and through crowded marketplaces where whispers of the coming kingdom spread like wildfire. But the road was not without peril. James saw the gathering storms, hostile priests plotting, crowds torn between hope and fear, and even among the closest disciples, moments of doubt and betrayal. The weight of what was to come pressed heavily on his spirit, yet he remained unwavering, drawn ever closer to the man who had called him from the sea. Walking with the Master was a crucible, a test of faith, loyalty, and courage. Each step demanded more than obedience. It required transformation. James felt the old self melting away, replaced by a fiery resolve to carry the message of light into the darkest corners of the world. This journey with Jesus was shaping James into a brother of thunder, a herald of change, and a witness to the dawn of a new age. The fires of faith blazed within him, ready to burn bright even when the path led into shadow and sacrifice. And so, with every sunrise, James walked on, toward a destiny intertwined with the eternal, ready to face whatever lay ahead, guided by the Master's unshakable call. Chapter 6: The Mountain Encounter. The journey led James and the other chosen disciples to a mountain, an ancient place where earth and sky seemed to meet in whispered secrets. It was here, high above the plains and villages below, that the air grew thin and charged with a sacred energy. The mountain stood as a silent witness to moments that would forever change the course of history. James climbed the steep path with heart pounding, every step a mixture of anticipation and awe. The Master walked beside them, calm and radiant, a beacon amid the rugged terrain. They were far from the noise of the crowds, far from the bustling towns that doubted and feared the words Jesus spoke. Here, on this mountain, something profound was about to be revealed. As the sun reached its zenith, a shimmering light surrounded Jesus. His face, already marked by a serene authority, began to glow with an otherworldly brilliance. James felt a warmth spread through his chest, a fire kindled by the presence of the divine. The air crackled with a power that both frightened and fascinated him. Suddenly, figures appeared beside Jesus: Moses, the lawgiver, and Elijah, the prophet of fire, each radiating the wisdom and might of ages past. Their presence was a bridge between the ancient promises and the new covenant unfolding before James' very eyes. The mountain seemed to pulse with life as heaven and earth converged in a moment suspended outside of time. James watched in stunned silence as the voices of the past and present mingled with the voice of the Master. They spoke of fulfillment, of the path ahead paved with sacrifice and glory. The weight of their words pressed on James' soul, awakening a deeper understanding of the battle between light and darkness. But amidst the awe and splendor, James was keenly aware of the shadow lurking beneath the radiance, the coming trials, the betrayals that would fracture their circle, and the pain that would pierce the heart of their mission. The mountain was a place of revelation, but also a threshold to suffering. When the vision faded and the figures vanished like mist at dawn, James felt changed, marked by the encounter, a witness to the sacred mystery. The mountain had shown him the cost and the promise of discipleship. It was not a path of ease, but of courage and endurance. Descending the rocky slopes, James carried the mountain's message deep within him. The fire of his zeal burned brighter, tempered now with the solemn knowledge of what lay ahead. He was no longer just a fisherman or a follower. He was a chosen vessel, called to bear witness to the light amidst the coming darkness. This encounter on the mountain was a turning point, an epic moment where the veil between mortal and divine was lifted, and James glimpsed the eternal purpose that would guide him through the storms to come. With heart aflame and spirit resolute, James stepped forward, ready to embrace his destiny as the Caminante del Cielo, the Walker of Heaven, whose journey was just beginning. Chapter 7: Storms and Shadows. The open sea had always been James's world, its rolling waves as familiar as his own heartbeat. Yet now, The calm he once knew was shattered by storms far fiercer than any tempest of wind and water. These were storms of doubt, fear, and unseen enemies lurking in the shadows, threatening to drown the light he carried within. After the mountain encounter, James returned to the life he once knew, but nothing felt the same. The air was thick with tension, whispers of rebellion among the rulers, dark plots woven beneath the surface, and the heavy burden of a mission that demanded all his courage. His days were shadowed by uncertainty, and his nights haunted by visions of the trials yet to come. The winds howled like distant cries of warning as James and his brother John sailed alongside their fellow disciples. Each wave seemed to echo the turmoil inside them, the clash between faith and fear, hope and despair. The world they sought to change resisted with fierce resolve, and James felt the weight of every step on this perilous path. In the midst of this turmoil, Jesus' words rang clear, a beacon cutting through the storm's roar. Yet even the Master, radiant and resolute, bore the scars of betrayal and pain. James saw in him the depth of sacrifice that awaited them all, a sacrifice that would test every bond and break many hearts. As darkness gathered on the horizon, so too did the forces that sought to snuff out the light. Friends would falter, enemies would rise, and the shadows would reach into the very heart of their fellowship. James knew the coming days would demand strength beyond muscle and steel, strength of spirit, forged in fire and unwavering faith. The storm was no longer just in the skies. It had taken root in their souls. Yet, amid the raging winds and looming shadows, a fierce flame burned within James, a flame of devotion that no darkness could extinguish. It was this fire that would carry him through the night, a silent promise that dawn would come. With every challenge, James grew stronger, more certain that his journey was not his alone. He was part of a greater story, written by the hand of destiny and sealed by the blood of the Lamb. Those storms threatened to break him. He stood unyielding, a warrior of heaven walking the treacherous road ahead. In the face of storms and shadows, James's heart blazed like a beacon, lighting the way forward for those who would follow. The path was perilous, but the promise of glory beyond the storm spurred him onward. Chapter 8. Messenger of the Kingdom. James stood at the threshold of a new chapter, his spirit afire with purpose and his eyes fixed on a horizon yet unseen. The call to be more than a fisherman echoed deep within, a summons to become a messenger, a herald of a kingdom unlike any other. This was no ordinary mission. It was a divine mandate to spread a message that would shake the very foundations of the world. From the bustling towns to the quiet villages scattered across Judea, James journeyed with a burning conviction. Every step carried the weight of responsibility. Every word spoken a spark meant to ignite hearts with hope. The kingdom he proclaimed was not of this earth, but of a higher realm, one of justice, mercy, and eternal peace. He traveled alongside his brother John, their bond forged in the fires of faith and tempered by the trials they faced. Together, they braved hostile crowds and skeptical minds, yet their resolve never wavered. James's voice rang out with the authority of one who had witnessed the miraculous, who had walked beside the Son of Man and felt the pulse of heaven. But being a messenger was no easy path. Shadows of persecution lurked behind every corner, and whispers of danger grew louder with each town they entered. James knew that the road ahead would be strewn with hardship and sacrifice. Yet, the flame within him burned brighter, fueled by the knowledge that his message carried the power to transform lives. He recalled the moments by the Sea of Galilee, the call that had changed everything, the look in Jesus' eyes that spoke of destiny and grace. That calling was a mantle he wore with pride and humility, knowing it came not from earthly power, but from divine love. As the sun dipped below the hills, casting long shadows across the land, James pressed on, a steadfast messenger of the kingdom. His journey was not just one of distance, but of the heart, a relentless pursuit of truth, a battle against darkness, and a beacon for all who yearn for light. In every village square, in every whispered prayer, James's message found fertile ground. The kingdom he proclaimed was growing, not by force, but by the quiet, unstoppable power of faith. And though the path was fraught with danger, James walked it unafraid, carrying the torch that would one day illuminate the world. Chapter 9. Trials of Faith. The road ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but James marched on, his spirit aflame with purpose. Each day brought new obstacles, testing the limits of his endurance and the strength of his faith. From hostile villages where suspicion shadowed every glance, to whispered threats in the dead of night, the trials he faced were relentless. The opposition was fierce. Religious leaders branded him a heretic, their voices ringing with condemnation in crowded marketplaces. Their eyes, sharp and unforgiving, sought to silence the message he carried, a message of hope and revolution that threatened the established order. Yet, despite their fury, James held fast, his heart anchored in the promise of the kingdom. In the solitude of prayer, he wrestled with doubts that clawed at his soul. Was he truly worthy of his calling? Could a man so flawed stand against the tide of darkness? But in those quiet moments, a divine fire ignited within him, a sacred reassurance that his mission was not his alone, but guided by a power beyond mortal understanding. The trials tested more than his courage. They demanded sacrifice. Friends turned away, fearful of sharing his perilous path. Betrayal lurked where trust once blossomed, and loneliness pressed upon him like a crushing weight. Yet, with every setback, James's resolve deepened. He remembered the Master's words spoken on the mountaintop. "Blessed are those who persevere, for their reward is great in heaven." His faith became a beacon in the darkness. In villages where despair had taken root, his presence kindled flickers of hope. He healed the broken, comforted the lost, and spoke of a kingdom where love and justice reigned. His trials forged him into a warrior not of sword and shield, but of unwavering spirit and indomitable will. Though the storms raged around him, James stood tall, unyielding, steadfast, a living testament to the power of faith tested and proven true. Every hardship was a step closer to the destiny laid out before him, a destiny to be a pillar of the early church and a herald of the kingdom to all who would listen. The trials of faith were many, but the fire within James burned brighter than ever, an eternal flame that no darkness could extinguish. Chapter 10. The Fiery Cross. The sun dipped low beyond the horizon, casting long shadows over the rugged paths James trod. Each step echoed with the weight of destiny, as the burden of the cross grew heavier upon his shoulders. The fiery cross, both symbol and weapon, burned fiercely in his heart, a testament to the passion that fueled his journey. This was no ordinary mission. James carried the torch of the kingdom into lands where darkness reigned supreme. The cross he bore was not just a sign of sacrifice, but a blazing beacon of hope that challenged empires and shook foundations. With every village he entered, the air thickened with tension. Men and women whispered tales of this fiery messenger who dared to proclaim a new reign. Enemies lurked in every corner. Pagan idols loomed tall, their shadows attempting to smother the flame of faith. Yet, undeterred, James pressed onward. The cross was his shield against hatred, his sword against despair. It ignited courage in the hearts of the faithful and struck fear into the hearts of the oppressors. In moments of quiet solitude, James reflected on the meaning of his mission. The cross was not merely a tool of suffering. It was a symbol of victory over death, a promise of eternal life. His own flesh might falter, but his spirit blazed eternal, set ablaze by the love of the Master who had walked the path before him. The fiery cross was more than a burden. It was a call to action, a summons to rise above fear and doubt. James knew that every wound endured, every hardship faced, was part of a divine plan that would echo through the ages. His faith was the kindling, the cross the flame, and the world his battlefield. As night fell, The stars emerged like scattered embers in the sky, mirroring the fire within James's soul. He was the Caminante del Cielo, the Walker of Heaven, carrying the fiery cross not only to those who awaited salvation, but to every shadowed corner of the earth. The path was treacherous, the cross burning ever hotter, but James walked forward, unyielding and aflame with the power of faith. Chapter 11. The Path to Glory. The road stretched endlessly before James, winding through rugged mountains and sun-scorched valleys. Dust rose with every determined step he took, but his eyes remained fixed on the horizon, a horizon bathed not in earthly light, but in the promise of glory. The path to glory was not paved with ease or comfort. It was carved through trials of fire and moments of bitter doubt. Each obstacle tested his resolve. Each hardship forged his spirit stronger. James knew that glory was not simply the reward of victory, but the triumph of unwavering faith against the darkest of forces. Along this journey, the echoes of his past whispered in the winds. Memories of laughter with his brother, the thunderous call of the seas, the master's gentle voice urging him onward. These recollections became the fuel for his perseverance, a sacred fire that refused to be extinguished. But glory demanded sacrifice. James witnessed the suffering of those who embraced the new faith, their struggles mirroring his own. Every wound they bore, every tear they shed, was a testament to the power of belief, a flame kindled in the hearts of the oppressed that no shadow could smother. In the face of danger, James became a beacon. His presence ignited hope in the weary and courage in the fearful. Villages once shrouded in darkness began to stir with the light of faith. The path to glory was not walked alone. It was a journey shared with every soul daring to dream of salvation. The cross he bore weighed heavy, but it was a burden he carried with pride. For with every step forward, the path became clearer, the light grew brighter, and the promise of glory edged nearer. This was a glory not of earthly crowns, but of eternal honor, the glory of a soul steadfast in its mission. As twilight descended, James lifted his gaze to the heavens. The stars gleamed like the eyes of angels, watching over the Caminante del Cielo, the Walker of Heaven, as he pressed onward, unwavering, toward the destiny that awaited. The path was arduous, the night dark, but James's spirit blazed like a comet streaking across the sky. Glory was not a destination. It was the journey itself, a sacred flame that burned within him, lighting the way for generations yet to come. Chapter 12. The Final Journey. The air was thick with anticipation as James prepared for the final leg of his pilgrimage, a journey that would test every fiber of his being. The road ahead was steep and treacherous, winding through jagged cliffs and shadowed forests. But the Caminante del Cielo felt a fierce determination burning within his heart. This was no ordinary path. It was a sacred mission, a call that echoed deep within his soul. Every step carried the weight of destiny. Every breath was a prayer whispered into the vast expanse of heaven. Along the way, memories of his past intertwined with visions of what was to come. Faces of those he loved, the touch of the Master's hand, and the thunderous roar of the sea, each memory a beacon guiding him forward, unwavering and resolute. Yet, the journey was fraught with peril. Darkness loomed in the form of enemies who sought to silence the flame of faith James carried. But his spirit refused to be dimmed. With every challenge, he grew stronger, more resolute, a warrior forged in the fires of conviction. He reached villages where hope had almost withered, where despair hung heavy in the air. There, James became a living testament to perseverance and faith. His presence rekindled the light in weary eyes and inspired courage in trembling hearts. The Caminante del Cielo was not merely traveling a path. He was forging a legacy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across the land, James found himself at a crossroads, both literal and spiritual. The choice before him was monumental: to continue the path laid out by the Master, no matter the cost, or to turn back and seek safety. But fear had no hold over him. With a steady breath and a heart ablaze, he stepped forward, embracing the unknown with unwavering faith. The final journey was not the end, but a beginning, the moment when mortal resolve meets divine purpose. As night enveloped the world, James's figure stood tall against the stars, a silhouette of courage and hope, ready to face whatever destiny awaited. The Comandante del Cielo had walked far and faced much, but his greatest trial was yet to come, a trial that would echo through eternity, sealing his place among the legends of faith. Chapter 13: Voices from Beyond. In the quiet moments between dusk and dawn, when the world seemed suspended between two realms, James felt a presence, whispers from beyond the veil of mortal life. These were not ordinary voices. They carried the weight of eternity, echoes of those who had walked the path before him and those yet to come. The Comandante del Cielo stood alone on a windswept hilltop, the night sky blazing with stars like a celestial tapestry. From the depths of his soul, a chorus of voices rose, sometimes gentle as a breeze, sometimes fierce as a storm, calling him onward, urging him to press beyond the limits of flesh and fear. They spoke of sacrifice, of battles fought in the unseen, of victories that would shape the course of history. They spoke of the Master's love, a fire that could never be quenched, a light that pierced even the darkest shadows. In those voices, James found both comfort and challenge. They reminded him that his journey was far greater than any single life, that his footsteps were part of a divine march across time. The echoes of the faithful who had gone before him filled his heart with strength, and their warnings sharpened his resolve. But there was more, a call to rise above doubt and despair, to become a beacon for those lost in the tempest of the world. The voices spoke of an ultimate mission, one that demanded courage beyond measure and a spirit unbreakable. As dawn broke, the whispers faded, leaving James with a profound silence that spoke louder than words. He knew the path ahead was perilous, but he also knew he was not alone. The voices from beyond had given him a gift, the unwavering certainty that faith transcends death and that love endures beyond the grave. With renewed purpose, the Comandante del Cielo set forth once more, ready to face the coming trials with the strength of those who had gone before him, their voices forever guiding his way. Chapter 14: Legacy of the Skywalker. The sun hung low over the horizon, casting a golden glow that bathed the earth in warmth, a silent witness to the legacy forged by James, the Comandante del Cielo. His footsteps echoed, not only on dusty paths, but deep within the hearts of those who followed, a legacy written across time like the constellations that guided him. James was more than a man. He was a symbol of unwavering faith and relentless pursuit. The storms he had weathered, the battles fought both visible and unseen, had carved his name into the annals of history. But his true legacy was not just in the echoes of his deeds. It was in the spirit he ignited in others, a flame that would burn across generations. As the sky turned to twilight, whispers of his journey spread through villages and cities, inspiring the timid to stand tall and the weary to press onward. He had shown that faith was not a quiet shadow, but a blazing fire, one that could illuminate the darkest paths and kindle hope where despair threatened to take hold. The Comandante del Cielo's legacy was also a challenge, a call to those who came after to walk their own paths with courage and conviction. The sky was not merely a vault above, but a canvas of infinite possibility, a reminder that even the humblest traveler could leave a mark that would outlast lifetimes. In the quiet moments before nightfall, James often looked upward, feeling the vastness of the heavens both humbling and empowering. He knew his journey was nearing its end, but the legacy of the Skywalker would endure, a testament to the power of faith, the strength of purpose, and the eternal dance between earth and sky. The path he walked was one of sacrifice and glory, of loss and triumph. Yet above all, it was a path of light, a beacon for those who dare to dream beyond the horizon. Chapter 15: The Apostles' Crown. The twilight of James's journey was not marked by silence, but by the crescendo of a life lived with fierce devotion and unyielding courage. As the Caminante del Cielo, he had walked paths few dare to tread, bearing the weight of faith like a mantle woven from both trials and triumphs. His final days were a testament to the crown he had earned, not of gold or jewels, but of honor, sacrifice, and legacy. The Apostles' Crown was forged in the fires of battle, both earthly and spiritual, shining brightest in moments when shadows threatened to overwhelm the light. James stood at the crossroads where earth met sky, his eyes reflecting the stars that had guided him since youth. Around him gathered those who had witnessed his journey, the faithful, the inspired, the changed. Their voices rose in a chorus of gratitude and reverence, honoring a man who had become more than a disciple. He was a legend. This crown was not merely for himself, but a beacon for all who sought the path of righteousness, a symbol that true greatness comes from humility and unwavering faith. Through storms, through trials, through the silence of doubt, James had remained steadfast, a pillar of strength in a world rife with uncertainty. As he took his final steps, the weight of his crown felt light, carried not on his head, but in the hearts of those he had touched. His story would be told for generations, a flame passed from one soul to another, lighting the way for those who dare to follow. The Caminante del Cielo's crown was eternal, a radiant testament to a life devoted to the divine, a legacy sealed beneath the vast heavens he had so often walked beneath. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey through the life of James the Greater, the Skywalker Apostle. Your support means everything to us. Please like, subscribe, and share our channel to continue exploring the untold stories of faith and courage. Until next time, may your own path be blessed and your spirit strengthened.